Hi, I'm Shemaya. It's like papaya, except it's not. Today we're going to revisit Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and talk about masculinity. Follow the social media accounts and enjoy.
Hello! Hi, Jonah!
Hello. Thank you for having me. Woohoo! I'm so excited.
Me too. I love talking about movies, as you probably know. It's like one of those, like it's pretty old by like a moviegoer standards. Like it's like 2018.
I mean, now, yeah, it feel like it's sort of like if a movie hasn't come out in the last 6 months, it's kind
Yeah,
of
ancient.
especially with all I do is pretty much watch movies now, so watch
Right,
movies.
right. I need something
Really
every day. Come on, Netflix. Every single day.
Yeah, I think I've been logged into Netflix for like a week straight at this point, probably just like on in the background always.
Absolutely. When I'm working, when I'm not working, when I'm
When I'm outside, when I'm not home, I'll leave it on at
when I'm
home,
sleeping.
just chill, because it gives me like a sense of comfort to know that I
Something.
don't know what I'm going with this.
No, yeah, like it really is comforting because like it's just having something going on so that I'm not like left with my thoughts.
What kind of stuff have you been watching on Netflix? Because I find I've been watching a lot of stuff been trying to avoid, and I feel like this sort of ties into the movie actually a little bit. But I feel like I've been trying to avoid like things with a lot of high stakes, sort of not high stakes, but like things that make me feel bad,
See, that's really funny because I've been doing the opposite.
Really, that's so interesting.
Like most of the movies I've been watching are like crime movies or like a heist or like someone's getting murdered. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting too because it's like, I mean, that's kind of what this movie is too. There's crime and murder, but it doesn't. It I don't know. It sort of has it doesn't leave you feeling bad because it's everyone who gets murdered is not a great person.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been watching a lot of like Schitt's Creek and like The West Wing, like stuff that like is more aspirational, I guess.
Gotcha.
Than
You know what I think it is? I feel like I'm really diving into those really like harsh, not so comforting subjects because I think my way of like dealing with catastrophe is just going for it head on.
Yeah, totally. No, I get that. I mean, everyone deals with catastrophe as you.
Catastrophe.
That's pretty apt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting just to kind of get a glimpse into how people are dealing with.
Yeah.
Unprecedented.
Yeah, I actually have not watched The West Wing. What is that about?
Oh gosh.
A lot of things.
So it's about the president, not this president, I should say. A fictional president. It's just like about the White House and about them dealing with conflicts, and it sort of is. It's interesting to watch now because everyone is so nice to each other and respectful, which is it's a lot different than what I think politics are like now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's great TV. Would recommend.
Okay, put on my list.
Puts on my endless list.
Yeah. Ooh, I Little Fires Everywhere. I just finished it and I binged it.
Yeah, my mom was watching that and I meant to watch it with her, but she just kept bothering us about watching it with her, and then eventually she just watched it on her
own. Yeah, so I've been really into that, and there's this show called Killing Eve that I really like. It's with Sandra.
Yeah, I've been meaning. Yes, yeah. Sandra Oh is just a goddess. So.
Flowers.
Yeah, watch that one. Little Fires Everywhere is. What's that one about?
It's about. Oh gosh. It's basically about this woman who is kind of like a nomad, her and her daughter. She's played by Kerry Washington. And this other woman, they're like the two protagonists. Well, no, I would say that's the thing, because they're both protagonists, depending on how you look at
it. Sure.
So then there's Reese Witherspoon's character, who is a suburban, wealthy mom of the upper middle class. And she's really problem. I'm not gonna. Is
it about like white feminism and like?
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. It's so layered and nobody's perfect. And I think something that has been missing within narratives about race, especially within suburbia, is the aspect of like all the Black people are right and all the white people are wrong. Like, and that doesn't really.
And it's sort of, it doesn't, how does that help anyone? You know, like, if you're not trying to connect people with this, then what's the point?
Yeah. And that's the great thing about it, is just, it gives each character room to like be good and bad. And it gives more complexity specifically to the Black characters, because something that, another trend that I also see is like, I guess I'm going to have to do a podcast on this now because you're talking about it. But
maybe we should have just watched this and done.
But yeah, just to like wrap up the Little Fires summary.
Yeah, put a little pin in that.
Yeah, or really, it handles really well the complexity of Black womanhood, in ways that I don't see a lot of media doing.
I love that. I mean, I think that's amazing. I think, I think Black women are goddesses in general. You especially, but I think that's awesome. No, and I think with it's obviously there's not enough stories that are about Black women or Black people in general or minorities in general, and it's like I guess this movie kind of made me long for more of that a little bit in a way. To segue into the movie discussion.
Good. Yeah. Okay, so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So what I did was I gave a summary for the viewers, listeners, earlier, and so that part's covered. So why don't we just let's talk about the things we liked first, and then we can go in.
What did you like about this movie, Shemaya? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think the cinematography was beautiful. I think he knows how to shoot people in ways that make them interesting, even if they're just standing there. I think that's both testament to the acting and to the director. I think he's a really good storyteller, I would say, in terms of like being consistent with like the theme. And in this specific case, I think that, and I feel like with a lot of his work, with a lot of Tarantino's work, he relies a lot on the aspect of nostalgia. And I think that nostalgia can be used in two different ways in film. I think that it can either be one of the main driving forces of the plot, like it can be really substantial to like what actually happened, or it can just be the backdrop. Like for Stranger Things, I would say. Sorry, what was that?
Like the atmosphere of the movie, kind of.
Yeah, like for Stranger Things, I would say that the time period has a lot to do with like what actually transpires and the relevance of it all. Like, because that era was really like a lot of people were paranoid about like the government and about like aliens. So that's
I mean the way that they use the time period in that show, and also with the homage to like 80s.
So it's like similar to that, I feel like. And what else did I like? I liked the acting. I thought everybody made a solid.
I think the acting was probably my favorite part of the movie. Which is awesome, but for me. I mean, I think the writing was, I think his dialogue is really good, obviously. I think he really knows how to write a movie, if that makes sense. Like, he obviously knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's been in the film industry for however many years. He knows about film. You know what I mean? But I'll talk more about what I liked. I liked the attention to detail. That's always nice. The setting was like, the world was just like so clear and so accurate, I want to say. I mean, I wasn't alive in 1969, so it's hard to say, I guess, how accurate it was, but it puts you in that world, like, immediately, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine anyone who... Are people still alive who were... Oh, God. How old are people?
Must be. Well, he was alive in 1960. He was like... he was like 6 or something in 1960.
Oh, okay. So like the people who grew up in the 60s and 70s, I can see how that would appeal to them and how they would feel transformed back into that world. And I can also see how he's kind of catering to his fan base. People who are diehard, like,
that's the thing. That's probably one of the things I'm not a fan of with Tarantino is his fan base.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, which is true of a lot of fandoms, I think. But
what was I like how he took a different turn on history. Like he made a different create a different ending basically for historically what was really cool.
I think regardless of what people think like of the twist itself, I guess it was interesting at the least. I didn't really know a whole lot about this movie going in, so I didn't expect it. It was well constructed. I think the moment of like the reveal when they walk into his house and you're like, oh, that's not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what? I think that was really that was one of the better parts of the movie. That moment for me. That was a moment that stood out to me.
Yeah, and I also like how he tied in the quote that Leo's character Rick made toward the beginning, where he was like, "One day they're gonna invite me over for dinner, and I'm just gonna be an instant star in a Polanski film."
Yeah,
and how that kind of happened at the end, basically. So yeah, this like neat little package. Yeah.
Fun little movie. That's it. I think we're done. I don't think it was good. I think that's it. No.
Yeah. So now the things we're in a big panda. We can go into that. So and I do want to like just put out there, I'm coming from a place of empathy. Like I like to look at art from an analytical lens, just because I feel like it can help us figure out what kind of art we actually want to see going forward.
And I think people don't make films in a void. You know what I mean? It's like the way that people react to your film, I think, in my opinion, is as much a cultural impact of that film and sort of the meaning of that film. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're not making films for two people to discuss, on a podcast, two friends to just talk about them, like I guess who are you making them for?
Yeah. Yeah, and I find that like I feel like I'm becoming maybe more of a pretentious audience member because I just
yeah.
I mean, I made a whole podcast to tear down film. I'm just kidding, but I feel like if something isn't coming at an idea from an interesting angle, that like basically I just like stuff that's either really weird or makes me have conversations about topics that involve actual humans in the real world. And I feel like if it's not doing either of those things, then I don't really take much of an interest in it. At this point, I feel like, and I think part of it is I feel like there's more at stake now with the type of art that we're creating, and I think that we have more tools now and more agency to create the images we want to see.
I think that's a good way to put it. I think when people complain about like art being, I guess, too sort of high-minded or sort of, too liberal, I guess, or too kind of, I'm trying to think of the right word. People think that, people put in these characters, these minority characters or these minority storylines just to appeal, I guess, to like this non-existent like people who don't go to the movies otherwise, I guess, which isn't real. People will go to see your movie whether that's in there or not.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I think on the whole, it doesn't usually affect the box office of a movie, but I think that it's not that these things are like unnecessarily being put in because of some political agenda. It's just that our generation and the people who are making movies is changing, and what we want to see and what we want to create is changing, which is not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this movie sort of, it almost kind of paints it in a negative light a little bit, doesn't it?
Because it's like it's just the arc of or rather the symbolism with like the hippies. I mean, like they're not hippies, they're murderers, but like
Right.
they're
But also, like, in this movie, they're not even murderers, you know, technically. Like,
yeah.
they don't kill anyone, technically, in this timeline. I mean, obviously, we know they're the Manson family, so they're not great, but...
Yeah, it's weird, too, because I was reading an article about this, of how Rick's character kind of represents the, like, old way of thinking in, like, old Hollywood, and how the new Hollywood was a threat to him, and, like, kind of a threat to everyone who thought like him and everyone who looked like him.
Right.
And so the movie, whether intentionally or not, is kind of making him seem like the hero. And in doing that, and in him being the hero by kind of defeating the villain, which, you know, might be countercultural in this case, but
right.
like in the grand scheme of things might just be, you know, a new way of thinking. That sends a really harmful message. And it kind of makes me think of how conservative minded folks kind of paint liberal ideas as just like kids just being spoiled, or like just kids like not knowing what the world is like. And I got a lot of that from Rick's character.
Yeah, it's like when conservatives are like, you know, oh, they don't understand the world. It's not... what those people don't understand is that it's the world that's changing, you know, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like Tarantino doesn't feel that way, you know? You get the sense that he wishes
you think he does not, or you think he does?
I think he doesn't. I think you get the sense kind of that he wishes that the world hadn't changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is like... I understand the nostalgia for that kind of era. Obviously, there's appeal, but but like, you know, there's also only one minority character, you know, racial minority character in the movie that I can think of. You know what I mean? Like, those people weren't allowed in Hollywood, and you want to return to that? Like, what do you know? It's just, it feels a little icky.
And it's
kind of...
Yeah, it feels like almost irresponsible, because I feel like, and I kind of sit on the fence with using that word in terms of creating art, because I know that people create art for the most part from their experiences.
Right.
And sometimes whatever you create can be interpreted differently. You can't necessarily control how an audience sees your work, like what lens they view it through. So I get that.
Yeah, there is a sense of like wanting to let go of your art once it's created and sort of just be like, well, that's it.
It's kind of like it's out of your hands after out in the world. But at the same time, it's like he's aware at this point how his work comes across to people. Not saying that you have to just listen to the opinions of everyone on the outside, but I do think it's worth. I think it's worth working harder to make sure that the message that you're putting out isn't harmful, even if it means this character isn't as rough and tough as you want him to be, or he's
not. Brad Pitt doesn't have to jump from the fence to the roof and then when he's fixing a satellite. I was like,
yeah,
I'm not complaining. Yeah. Why?
Yeah, it just reinstills this this world of macho men, of macho white men, where they're the heroes simply by existing. And that's something else that I was thinking about is what about Rick? Because Rick is the hero in this, because Cliff gets injured, nothing happens to Rick. Maybe Cliff is part of that, but the way that I see it, Rick is the one that's
Rick's journey is the one I think that is the structure of the film, sort of his journey of his journey through Hollywood and through these changing times. And at the end, he's the one who goes to Sharon Tate's house. He's the one who's left, basically. I would agree with that. He's sort of the structural antagonist.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, because I feel I don't know, I didn't think that he had any not heroic qualities, but any qualities that made me really vouch for him, except for the fact that we're told that he's the main character, and we're told that, you
And
know,
it's he's the main character and he is Leonardo DiCaprio, and like
yeah,
that's supposed to be enough. And it is, I guess, because it worked, I suppose.
mm-hmm.
But he sort of just has things happen to him. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but I guess that's true. And he sort of is not. I mean, if you came across this person in life, you would probably think he was kind of a jerk. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you would really like him very much,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, and it also makes me think of how, like, we are socialized to buy into white male problems quicker than anyone else is. Like, we assume that, not saying that, like, his struggles aren't valid, because, like, I'm an actor, I get it, but, like,
yeah, we can get into that, but yeah.
You know?
But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's this thing where, like, you know, you see it after school shootings, you see it after anything involving a white man, where immediately people are like, oh, well, he must have been troubled, you know, he had all these mental health issues, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sure,
mm-hmm.
you should be paying more attention to that, but why is that an excuse only for these white men?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting too, because I feel like Charles Manson, and this might be a really bold statement, but, like, hear me out. So Charles
Shemaya's hot takes on Charles Manson. Here we go. I'm ready.
I feel like there is a world where Charles Manson and Rick are two sides of the same coin. And I say that because they're both, yes, they're perpetrators of this hyper-masculine, patriarchal society, but they're also victims of it. And I think, like, that's just...
That was a hot take. I wasn't expecting it to be that hot.
Oh.
No, I mean, yeah. I think you're not wrong in saying that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like, okay, so let's say that something, well, first let me talk about Rick. So Rick, he is handling, like, all the pressures of hypermasculinity, like, from a structural sense, and just from, like, his view of himself and how he sees that he'll contribute value to the world. He's experiencing it very internally, whereas Charles Manson, I believe, experienced it very outwardly. Like, Rick was only a danger to himself, but Charles was a danger to everyone else. And it just manifested in different ways. And I say that because, like, in a general sense, the expectations of being a man, supposed to have, what am I trying to say? Okay, the expectations of being a man in society are astronomical. And because of that, sometimes men who can't meet that standard, they deteriorate and they fall inward. And I think that's something that was happening to Rick, even though he was in the artistic space. It's almost like he's more susceptible to it, because as artists, I feel like we tie that to, like, our identity. Like, it becomes us, like, our art becomes us. And the same thing with Charles Manson. He was an artist. And, like, it's really hard sometimes to see.
Pop culture was a huge part of his life, and also his, I guess, messaging, would you call it? His like, his like groupthink. Yeah, and he sort of is seen as, I guess, sort of the end of the 60s. He's invariably and inexorably, like, connected to pop culture. He is both in his life and also in the way that people reacted to him. You know, he became, like, a phenomenon in a way. He was on Rolling Stone. Like, there's endless movies about him. Yeah. In a way, he almost sort of, I guess he didn't get what he wanted. That's not because he wanted to incite a race war, and that didn't happen. You know, so that's good, obviously. Yeah. But, like, you kind of have to wonder if this pop culture obsession with him is doing more harm than good, you know? And I don't know. I mean, I'm obsessed with serial killers. So, you know, it's hard for me to say, like, it would be better if we didn't publicize all this stuff, but you kind of have to wonder, you know?
Yeah, and along with that, it's like arguably the thing that really made him tip over the edge and start these mass murders was the fact that he got rejected by, by the guy who was going to give him a record deal. I don't know if that was an agent or.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was part of it. I think also it's important to note that he was like a nut, like crazy. Yeah. Like he, thought that the Beatles were sending him messages to start a race war. Like that's crazy. You know what I mean? But you're right in that you can't deny that it was because of these things that have happened to him in his life, and the effect that those kinds of things have had. And I think you do see that in Rick. Even just in the scene where he forgets that line and then he just like loses it, like goes insane. And, I feel like I've been there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think, which is not to say that I'm on the road to Charles Manson, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But I think as a man, as a white man, I do find myself identifying with Rick, I guess, in that regard. And I think that's something that all performers can identify with, but I think it sort of goes to what you're speaking about, men are taught to internalize and to not express those emotions, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can create just like a well of hate.
Yeah. Yeah, especially as an artist, because I don't think that to anyone, like being an actor is an inherently like, it's not something that's going to get you on the clear mainstream path to, the power that will be allotted to you within a patriarchal system, right? Like, it's not like you're a bank teller or a lawyer or, a CEO. It's not like the clear cut path. And
I don't think anyone gets into acting like for the power of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless they're famous, like right off the bat, right. Then they come to realize that this is a career that you're often powerless,
Yes. Yeah. And so, like, I wonder if, like, from a less psychological standpoint, since it's not like that clear-cut pathway, there's almost more pressure to succeed in, like, to a certain degree, because you're like, almost like, if I don't prove myself that I can get there without all that other stuff, that I can get there by actually doing what I love, then it was all for nothing kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we place such high stakes in ourselves as artists.
Yeah.
And no one gets into art to, I think, create the perfect, do the perfect take or like create the perfect painting. People do it to express themselves, and express something about themselves primarily, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Go.
And like, it sort of is, now I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, what were we saying? I literally just lost my train of thought. So that's...
No, you're good. You're still good. Maybe like, let's see. Maybe like I was talking about how as an artist sometimes you can feel like since you're not in like a mainstream career, or you're not in like, finance or something like that, especially as a man, you almost feel an extra pressure to succeed to a certain level, like to meet a certain to be in a certain bracket as an actor, especially as a man.
I feel like especially right now, I think that's something that a lot of actors and artists are struggling with in this time, especially. And I think watching this movie now, sort of not on purpose, but it kind of spoke to me in a way that, like, I've been struggling with, as I'm sure you have, those struggles of being unemployed right now, in terms of my art, not having an artistic outlet is hard. Yeah. It's really hard. And that pressure of wanting to book always, constantly, and, wanting to be employed, I think right now is especially getting to people. I found that in my experience, it's been a struggle, and I think it's important to remember that no one is working right now for the first, this is not a normal time. And also that I think our value is not tied to the things that we create or to employment,
Yeah, that's so important, because you know, like I feel like I also related to that moment where he was like, "Oh, you're so stupid." Like, like I was like,
I
"Oh."
think all actors have been there, unless they. Well, I don't want to say that, but many actors have been in that moment.
Yeah, totally.
When he's like kicking. Oh my gosh, he kicks him.
I was like, "Leo, you're perfect." Oh.
8 whiskey sours.
I'm like, oh.
And then, at the same time, there's the moment right after when that little girl comes up to him and she's like, "That's the best acting I've ever seen."
Mm-hmm.
It's those highs and lows of like, I mean, that's really what art is, isn't it? There's nothing I think that really that summarizes what creating art is like so beautifully. It's like these moments of like, just, you want to trash your trailer, literally, because you forgot a line, to like this little girl telling you that you're the best actor she's ever seen. It's those high highs and those low lows that are like,
yeah, absolutely.
relatable to me. And I'm guessing to, most careers, I would say probably. I don't know. But
yeah, but our job is crazy. We have a crazy job.
Yeah. My mom was always like, whenever I have auditions or callbacks, she's always like, "Is this the kind of thing where like they don't call us, we'll call you?" And like that's all of them. That's every audition I go on is that.
Welcome to my life.
It's so weird. We have these weird rules for acting that are not present in any other job.
It's so true. Oh my God. It's like, it's regular jobs and then some.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of pressure, and I think that's one of the themes of this movie that I think I really did enjoy, was that, I guess just because I related to it, was that pressure, that
Mm-hmm.
that pressure to succeed.
Yeah.
And to have a meaningful career,
Yeah, it's funny because it's like almost a spectrum of like, on one end of the spectrum, you literally think, well, it's all into the spectrum of I am my art, which is not healthy. But like one side of the spectrum is, oh, I'm trash and everything I create is trash and no one's gonna like me unless I'm like the biggest star in the world. And then there's the other side of the spectrum, which is like I'm God, basically.
Right. I'm the best thing since.
Yeah, best thing since Nutella. It's hard to compete.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they picked Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt to be in this movie. I guess I don't know. Not that I don't love them, and I think they're great, and I think they did an amazing job in the movie. But it is sort of interesting to me that they picked these two like really big stars. Like Leonardo DiCaprio has he ever had a movie that bombed? Like,
I'm looking for it. I haven't found it.
Like, does he? It's interesting to see these people who you would think would necessarily maybe relate to that.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if that was intentional.
Yeah, I mean,
or maybe because
I think he also just likes hanging out with his buddies. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, he's like, which friend can I invite to be in this movie? Like, let's get Margot Robbie in there. Let's get
Margot. Can I talk about Margot for a second? I love Margot so much. I saw her ever since I saw her in Suicide Squad. I was like, I only came here for her. The movie's trash, but I came here for her.
She's like, I think one of the best actors working right now. I think she's incredible.
She's so compelling and just like weird. Oh, I love it. I love it. Weird enough.
About just watching her is like so interesting. She's so fun to watch. That whole sequence of her just like going about her day was like really fascinating, and it's because of her.
Yeah, no, not because of the writing, because of her.
No, and it's not because of the directing is. Well, I guess the directing feeds into the acting, obviously, but like the cinematography isn't anything special. You know what I mean? It's just her giving a performance that feels honest.
Yeah, she's really great. But anyway, back to the subject matter.
Yes.
Love you, Margot. Hope you're listening. You're probably not. I love you anyway.
You know what? While we're talking about Margot, I guess, and sort of the white man aspect of it, I guess, one of the things that this movie, I think, people were not big fans of was the fact that Margot Robbie had like no lines, basically, and like, what was your impression, I guess, in terms of I mean, it's a movie about these two white men, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of minority representation. There's like Margot Robbie, and then there's the Manson girls, and then there's Bruce Lee, who we could talk about.
I have
don't know.
so much.
Yeah, what was your thoughts on
Okay.
that?
I'm gonna start with, because I did a little like digging in terms of the history of Westerns, because it's really tied to like violence and who I think there's just this underarching theme, this overarching theme. I don't know what the term is. But,
In between.
Yeah. But I think that whoever begets the most and the most gruesome violence is the person we're supposed to care about the least. And in this movie, I just, the women were like, not, like, here's the thing. I understand that the Mansons were not warm and cuddly. They were murderers, like, I get it. But it's like, it was done in like a comical way, like how gruesome it was just
yeah.
And I know that that's sort of his thing. Like, I've never seen Pulp Fiction, but I heard that that's a thing that he does, sometimes using violence within comedy or to like, for comedic effect.
Would recommend. Good movie.
Oh,
Maybe better than this movie.
But yeah, I heard he does that for comedic effect, but in this sense, it was like, wow, you have like very few women being showcased in this movie, and the women that are showcased are like being brutally
murdered.
Like it was a lot. It was a lot for me.
There's like a 2-minute long scene of, not 2 minutes, I'm exaggerating, but Brad Pitt just smashing that girl's face in. Like,
yeah. Like, why? I just feel like, why?
Yeah, and he, that sort of violence, I guess, is his kind of record, but it was also interesting to me how little violence there really was in the movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Considering that's like
what he does.
Probably what he's most famous for,
mm-hmm.
the level of violence. And it sort of was, in terms of his movies, kind of tame. But I guess, it does go to what you're speaking to, in that, like, when you scale back the violence, I guess it sort of places more of an emphasis on when the violence does occur. And these are, these women are, I mean, I hesitate to even say that they're monsters, because
they were brainwashed.
Brainwashed girls, yeah. Brainwashed into a cult. You know what I mean?
And on acid. They were probably on acid doing this. Like,
could have been.
Well,
we don't know. And, there's been all these movies about Charles Manson, about his cult, but it doesn't, not a lot about these girls who were brainwashed.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that, they're murderers, obviously. So, like, you should only have so much sympathy, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something else, actually, there's this movie called Charlie Says that is basically their story, which is, I recommend. It is rated R. A lot happens. You get to see a lot. Sorry?
I think it came out the same year as this movie, maybe. I'm not positive about that.
I believe 2018 is when it came out. But it has, like, a girl. Oh, sorry.
Manson's Girls. I'm going to Google it. Keep talking while I...
Cool. It was, it captured so well what one of the women went through, being in the process of her being brainwashed, and then when she was in prison afterward, maybe it was prison, maybe it was juvie, but what they showed was there was like a social worker who was supposed to like talk to the girls and get them to basically admit their crimes. And they admitted them, but they didn't think that they were wrong. They were like, well, this is just, we were like helping, the greater good or whatever. And it took her to the end of the movie to convince them that these were like gruesome murders, that they were convinced were, for some greater purpose. And it was, oh my God, because you saw by the look in their faces, the turning point of, this is something that I had to do, this is something that I chose to murder people, basically.
Yeah.
Like you see it in their eyes, and it's like, it is gut-wrenching, because then the social worker starts crying because she knows that she's convinced them now what they've done. And once you convince them, they have to live with that.
Yeah. And then it's like, yeah. Subtlety, I guess, has never really been Quentin Tarantino's, like, thing, and rooting for good people, I guess, has never really been his thing necessarily. He's not super into super nuanced characters, I don't think.
I see what you mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? But, like, the story of like the Manson girls, their brainwashing, I don't think would be interesting to him. But
do you think that's a problem, or do you think that's just in terms of what he wants to do with his work?
I think that it speaks to his attitude as a filmmaker. I think in that he has this viewpoint, you know, based on his movies and based on the interviews I've seen, that it's his world. You know what I mean? The movie he's making is his art. He can make it how he wants. It's what he wants to do. Which, yes, you know, I'm all for that. But he also has this way of sort of shutting down any other opinions or any other viewpoints. You know what I mean? And I do, as an artist, understand wanting to have control over your art, but I think there's a difference between letting other people control you and taking other people's viewpoints into account.
Yeah, like you can take notes.
Like listening to other people's perspectives and learning from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always feel like he wants to. It feels like he just has these views of this is what these people are like, and this is what women are like, and this is what men are like, and this is the world I'm making. And you have to wonder if it's, I don't know. It feels problematic at times.
Yeah, and it especially feels problematic when it seems like he uses you know the social, I guess, script. Not really. No, that's not. Like he uses like, okay, we'll be editing this, but maybe
edit this out.
I
always wonder how podcasts sound so like smooth and like they're just talking.
I feel like he almost uses the social political climate to his advantage at times. Like what he'll do when he wants to. Like what I mean by that is like he made Kill Bill, right? Like he made Kill Bill 1, 2, and 3. I believe all 3. And there's 2.
There's only 2.
Okay, I haven't seen them, so
there might be a 3rd one. He might be making it
in the making. I don't know. Uma. But anyway, Uma, where are you?
That's my mating call.
Yeah. But I think that he knows when to buy in and he knows when to not. So like when he does listen to people who are like, we need more representation of women, or, you know, we want to see women like not getting murdered or getting beat around, then he uses that for profit. But then he like is like, okay, I already did that. I don't have to do that anymore. Like I don't have to give space for women now because he already gave
his obligation. And then
and I feel a similar way about Django, even though I really like Django. Whenever someone has a history of not paying attention to a certain demographic or painting them in unfavorable ways, I question the project where it finally happens. And that might just be a
kind of question his motivation almost.
Yeah, because more often than not, like, let's be honest, more often than not, the people in the top tier making all the decisions only make decisions that are in favor of certain communities when it benefits them financially.
Yeah.
Like a good example of that is Green Book. Most Black people I know hated it. It won so many awards though because so many white people loved it.
like, oh, this is how we fix racism. Yeah, perfect.
Like,
yeah, no, you're right. He clearly has some, at best, weird worldviews. Like he's a weird guy. You know what I mean? And he has a very unique way of looking at the world, and it does make you question his motivations a little bit. And I mean, you have a movie like Django where they say the N-word like 110 times, something like that. You know what I mean? Written by this white guy. And there's something to be said. Like, I get that that's part of the story. You know what I mean? It does take place in the antebellum South. Like, they use that word a lot. But when you have someone like Spike Lee like criticizing you for using the word that much and you don't even like take that into account, you know what I mean? You don't even, listen and say, okay, I hear what you're saying. Like, it just makes you think he doesn't care almost about the perspective of minorities, I guess.
Yeah, and it almost feels like he, in his mind, he like romanticizes this era. Like, and I get it, like, speaking about, well, I don't get it, but like, speaking about the history of like, Westerns, they were like the breeding ground for violence in television and like how it kind of became popular. But lest we forget, in Western films and television were Black and brown bodies, mostly brown, more brown than Black, I would say. Indigenous people were basically the only people you saw getting murdered on television at the time.
Yeah.
And that's important because the 1940s was like when film noir started to emerge. And so that begot more violence in terms of murders being visible on screen.
Right. Yeah.
So like,
sort of as the rules kind of got less stringent. Yeah.
Yeah. So like what happened was they started, originally they would have like, maybe you see someone's hand go across someone's throat and then like you would see the shadow of the person being murdered. But like what they started doing was actually showing the murders as they happened.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it used to be you couldn't even show like a toilet on television. And then I think the first time they showed a toilet, they couldn't show the bowl. They had to just show the tank of the toilet.
Oh, wait, that's wild. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like, compared to like, you know, if you showed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to someone from the 50s, they would be like, this is disgusting garbage.
Yeah. So it's just really unsettling. And that goes back to my point of like, you can tell what a filmmaker wants you to, who a filmmaker wants you to care about based on who begets the most or who suffers from the most violence. You know?
And yeah, I think another thing that you can also tell through screen time, you know what I mean? And I'm really trying to think, I don't remember seeing a single person who is a color other than white, except for Bruce Lee. I don't, and even that portrayal of Bruce Lee was, was like,
and like,
this my feelings.
And like, here's the thing too, like I read somewhere that like maybe this was like Cliff's dream sequence, because of like the dent that he made in the car, which is not realistic. Maybe it's just imagination. I mean, sure. I don't know.
It's like more of a justification than a reason. You know? And it feels like he doesn't. It feels like it was convenient for them to use that as an out. You know what I mean? It feels like they were like, people said that and they were like, oh yeah, sure, it could be a dream sequence. Yeah.
Interesting.
Which I don't think is may necessarily what happened in the writing of the movie, but again, it makes you, there's all these little things that make you question his motivations.
Yeah, his motivations, definitely. Like, if he's actually listening. Because, like, I remember reading about an interview that he had where a journalist asked him about why Margot has, like, so little lines. And she's, like, one of the only prominent woman in the movie. And he basically, like, ignores her question.
Yeah, he doesn't go like, I reject your hypothesis.
Yeah, like, what does that mean?
So weird. Like,
stop being weird, Quentin.
How do you speak to a person that way in life? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he's kind of a rude, and he does speak to male reporters that way, but I feel like
it's like
there's often an air of condescension with him, I guess, with talking to women.
Yeah.
You know, that's the sense I get. I'm not inside his head, so it's hard to say, but
do you think that ego often coexists with successful artistry or like prominent artistry?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's hard to succeed in a career like this without some sort of ego. You know what I mean? Just because of how much rejection there is. It's hard to get through that if you don't have some sort of ego, I think. And I think the more successful you are, probably, especially in his case, the more egotistical you get, you know? And you look at someone like you know, like Shonda Rhimes, who I guess is not comparable necessarily, but who's not a white man in this position. And just from interviews with her, you can tell her ego is not even close to that level. And which is not to say, you know, they're different in different positions. Obviously, it's a different situation. But I guess when you look at the ego of white men in Hollywood, it's just interesting to see. What do you think about this whole ego in art? What's your take?
I think the correlation between the two is perfectly exemplified when Polanski called out his dog's name, which was I wrote it down. It was
I forgot Roman Polanski was also a character in this movie. Like
yeah.
I think that like he was there, so like it's kind of like you kind of have to include him.
What is his name? Freaking hold on. It's Dr. Saperstein.
That's right.
And that's the name of the doctor in Rosemary's Baby.
That's right.
Because like you name your dog after one of your movies, like
your own movie, literally your own movie.
So it was just like the perfect moment, I think. To represent that.
No, I think that's true. Yeah, Roman Polanski. I liked that they didn't include him more than I think they had to. Which was nice. I mean, I guess it's hard to avoid putting him in the movie because he was married to Sharon Tate, so like, but he's icky.
Yeah. Roman, what's going on? I think something that I also realized about like being in the biz or just like being a performer is how many rituals we have. Like like when the little girl was talking about how she doesn't like being called anyone other than her character's name on set. And she's like, what, 7?
That little girl's my hero. She's my
I know.
Like, actually, I think I want to be her.
She's going places. She really is.
Sure. A sequel just about her character in Hollywood.
About her. I only care about her. She's who I want to know about. And how there was like a scene where Rick had like a bowl with ice cold water on his desk, like on his like makeup.
Yeah. I think maybe that had to do with something to do with the makeup.
Oh, that would be an efficient way of doing it. I should do it that way. So much more efficient.
Look at that. You learned something new.
Look at that. Quentin taught me something new. Who knew?
Yeah. I guess you can learn something right then, turns out.
I thought it was like
that you as a Black woman learned something about makeup. That's funny to me.
But yeah, it's like, and I mean, like, I always like, he's a great storyteller, but like, yeah, you know, you get it. Yeah, so that was really interesting. Yeah. And also, it's interesting, like, how, like, when I said the spectrum of, like, being, like, thinking you're a god, and, like, basically thinking you're trash as an artist. It's almost godlike how we view celebrities. And it's almost like, back to Charles Manson, it's almost like Charles wanted that, but since he couldn't get it in the way that he thought he would, it's like this was plan B, kind of, like,
sure.
subliminal,
yeah,
like,
I mean, maybe, yeah. You know, I think and this kind of has to do with that, like, pop culture's fascination with, you know, serial killers and people who commit these violent crimes. You almost have to wonder if, I mean, it always is a little bit to do with attention, right? I mean, that's what, I don't know, the experts say, I guess. But I mean, there's always a sense of, you know, normal, healthy people don't do these things.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of, and you also don't, I think, do these things just for yourself. I mean, it's hard to, I don't know. I'm not a serial killer, but it feels like you don't do these kinds of violent, horrible things unless you want someone to see it. And it's that search for attention.
Yeah. See,
I mean, and sort of like the way that Hollywood plays into that and kind of feeds right into it with the whole pop culture. I mean, do you remember, like, after the Boston Marathon bombing when they had Dzhokhar Tsarnaev on the cover of Rolling Stone, you know, and they did that with Manson too, you know, and it's like, again, you really have to wonder if it's doing more harm than good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real. Like, because I watch a lot of Criminal Minds, and so that's often
Yes.
that's often what it boils down to is wanting attention in this really gruesome way. Really strange. Oh, I have a question. So, what do you think? Can we gain something from this sort of this trend of like rewriting history? And what are we risking by doing that? I don't know.
I think it depends on the event. You know, I think that, I mean, in terms of a movie, I guess when you're asked what are the risks, it's sort of nebulous. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of, what are the risks? You know what I mean? There's not necessarily any actual real risk. But again, you have to take into consideration like the reaction of people when they see this movie. Like when you see something like Green Book, you know, which was another way of rewriting history, not as dramatic and not as well known. But that had consequences for a lot of people. People were hurt by that movie, you know what I mean? And I think it's important to, I think there is a comfort in rewriting history in these sorts of ways, but I think it's also important to remember the real story, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think there probably will come a day not too long from now when people will see this movie and not realize that this is not like, that this is a takeoff on history, you know what I mean? Like people won't know about Sharon Tate and the Manson murders, and this will be their only sort of in to that event, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You kind of have to wonder how, I guess as a filmmaker, you wonder how much you should worry about that, you know what I mean? Because it does kind of, it's a big question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the same time, I think a lot of people were comforted by this movie's version of events, and I think, you know, it kind of brought Sharon Tate back into like consciousness, the public consciousness in a positive way. Yeah. But at the same time, I guess you worry also about who is rewriting the history. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what they're rewriting it to be. You know, history is written by the winners, as they say. So it's kind of like, especially if it's Tarantino doing it, I don't, you know, don't want him rewriting all of my history.
Yeah.
It's a little problematic.
That's the thing. It's like, sometimes like Django, I would love that. I would love that narrative to be the narrative.
Yeah. That's another one where it's like it gave comfort to a lot of people because it was this thing that couldn't have happened, but it's satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. But like in the case of like Bruce Lee, like maybe was he the only minority in the movie?
I want to say yes. I don't remember there being. He's the only prominent person of color.
And I would say that like rewriting his history to like not celebrate him was really, it was hard because
yeah, and I totally agree. It was like
this is all this is what he has, you know, and Asian actors don't have a lot of you know, elevated people that are interpreted to like deserve that kind of attention. Like I'm not saying that they don't have those people in the canon, but in Western culture we don't see them.
No, it's I think impossible to understate how important Bruce Lee was, I think, for Asian representation in media. And it sort of it just was like a joke that didn't land for me, I guess.
Yeah, it left a bitter taste in my mouth, honestly.
Yeah, me as well. And not least of which I think because, again, if it was the filmmaker was a person of color, I think I wouldn't feel that way. Or even if it was someone other than Tarantino, necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily feel that way.
Yeah, because like his track record doesn't make up for it, you know?
Yeah, especially with Asian representation. I mean, I can't really think of any movie he's had that's had a lot of Asian representation. I mean, Lucy Liu's a badass, but that's the only thing that I can that comes to mind off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the point of it. Is it like, are you rewriting history to benefit someone specific, and is that person already in a position of power? Like, is that person already?
That's a good way of examining it.
You know,
if you're rewriting this history to benefit people who are in power, then it is kind of like, why? For what reason?
Yeah, like the question is why, you know?
Yeah, I guess intent really. And you know, maybe that's why we're struggling so much with this question is, again, with Quentin Tarantino, it feels like it's hard to suss out his intent, I guess.
Yeah.
He's sus to me. He's a suspect.
He's sus.
I go into his movies so sus, and then I always enjoy them because the thing is, like, he makes enjoyable movies, you know what I mean? I can't deny that they're fun to watch and they're good technical movies. But then I always leave afterwards and I always think back on what he's made, and I almost always find moments that I'm like, that felt a little weird.
Yeah.
Like, it felt kind of icky.
Yeah, and he I think this is worth noting. He just loves using racial slurs. Like, he just uses them out the wazoo.
Loves it.
Like,
and if you watch interviews with them too, it's not even like, it's not that he'll just use them in the context of the script. He'll just say them out there. He'll just do it, throw them out, and I'm like, every time I'm like,
right. And like, I get, like, if you want to portray like a certain time period, but like, sometimes it's overkill. You know, like, sometimes it's just like, okay, we get it. We're in this time. We get it. Like,
yeah. And I mean, again, that's sort of, I guess, personal taste, but I think the problem comes when he refuses to hear anyone else's opinion on that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be so much a problem if it wasn't an issue about, the thing is, it's not just a creative issue. You know what I mean? It's an issue that affects the audience and affects people in the real world. And I feel like Tarantino often ignores his effect on the world and focuses on the art. You know what I mean? And I think that's, you know, there's a lot of artists who do that. And I sort of have to wonder what the point is. Personally, I mean, I get art for just art's sake, but I don't know. If you don't think about the effect that you're having, then
it's like self-indulgent almost.
It almost feels like selfish art, you know what I mean?
Yeah, self-serving, yeah.
Why are you putting it out into the world then? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which is not to say that I think that's what's happening with this movie, but...
Yeah, it also reminds me of, like, when I was talking about, like, Black and brown bodies being disposable on camera. That translates in real life. Like, what you see, like, what you're taught to value on television in a lot of ways teaches you what to value in life. Like... Right.
And the reason that people have such a problem with these eras of movies is because that's all there was. You know, there was no other representation. I mean, also it was problematic representation, but there was nothing else too, you know? And so to say that that's something that we should go back to, I think leaves a lot of people feeling left out.
Yeah, especially because I feel like there's a certain demographic of people who will watch this movie and interpret it in really problematic ways.
Yeah.
And, like, I could absolutely see someone watching this and thinking, you know, like, just, you know, yeah, uncomfy.
Just uncomfy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Watching this, I can see someone being uncomfortable throughout this whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I was uncomfortable.
I mean, maybe murdered his wife? Like...
Right, can we talk about that? Can we
maybe? It seemed like he probably killed her. Like...
No, we didn't get answer.
That he did not murder her. Like, I get that it was supposed to be left open-ended, I guess, but
for what purpose, though? That's my thing. For what purpose did he need to be someone who could have killed his wife or could have not, and then we never find out if he did? To, like, what purpose did that serve is my question, I guess. Like, maybe to make him seem mysterious.
He was supposed to be, I guess it was supposed to, like, play up his manliness? I don't know.
Oh.
And also when you have his wife as being, again, there's so few women in this movie, and one of the main by default, one of the main women characters, because there's so few of them, like this nagging, like, horrible wife who gets murdered. Like,
You know what? You know, yeah.
There's like not a positive woman in this movie except for Sharon Tate, and then
Ooh,
women who don't matter. You know.
can we talk about? I I honestly feel like even though Sharon was not the focus of the movie, and they were trying to make like an homage to her rather than making it about her, and that was like an artistic choice. Even though that was the case, I will. I'll say I don't appreciate how what we saw of her was like her walking down the street in short skirts and dancing in her room. That was it. Like, and her hair blowing in the wind. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
Like, yeah, and I get that they were trying to like
make her like
a normal day. Like, if she hadn't gotten murdered, this is what her day would have been like, I guess.
Yeah, or maybe they're trying to like make her like play up the celebrityism of it. Like, oh, she's so glamorous. Look at Sharon. Like, maybe.
It goes back to like the person who's making the movie. You know, he has this, and it's the male gaze. You know what I mean? It's the way that he frames these shots. I mean, he's obsessed with like these women's feet. Like it's weird. You know, it's uncomfy. And if a woman was making this movie, maybe it would be, you know, the script could stay the exact same, and you could see how it would be a completely different film.
Ooh, yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
I want to talk about, actually, if you don't mind me taking the lead a little bit.
Totally.
His sort of, I guess, his relationship with the whole, and I guess I should put like a trigger warning on this, but his relationship with Uma Thurman and sort of his relationship to the whole Weinstein thing, and his relationship, I guess, with sex offenders in general. How much do you sort of know? I have like a little summary prepared. If you don't, I don't know how much you know about sort of the Uma Thurman situation.
You can give your summary.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, Uma Thurman was assaulted by Harvey Weinstein, and Quentin Tarantino knew about it, and he knew about it for a long time. And he also said he knew about. Basically, what he said was, he gave this quote that was like, "I knew enough to do more than I did. There was more to it than just the normal rumors, the normal gossip. It wasn't secondhand. I knew he did a couple of these things. I chalked it up to a 50s, 60s era image of a boss chasing a secretary around the desk, as if that's okay. That's the egg on my face right now."
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you make of how do you digest art by these problematic people who have been in the industry and who didn't speak up and who were instruments to, in a lot of ways, kind of further this culture? You know, how do you balance that, I guess, with your interpretation of the person?
I was confronted with this question just like when I was thinking about the whole R. Kelly situation. Like way back in, I don't know, was that a couple of years ago? When things like, well, I mean, it had been going on for a long time, but when it finally, like when surviving R. Kelly
came, a lot of artists, I think, right now.
Yeah.
You know, because of cancel culture, you know, in quotes. I don't think that that's like a real thing, but.
Yeah, and yeah, so I came to the conclusion that if I feel weird about it, I'm just not going to partake. Like if I feel like listening to this song is, well, first of all, if listening to a song or watching a film or TV show is sending money their way, I'm not doing it. You know, if they're actually gaining income from me partaking, I'm not doing it. If I can do it for free and I'm not putting the onus on anybody else around me, I'm not playing it out loud, you know, I'm not forcing anyone else to watch it, like, then I think that's fine. Just as long as I'm not like infringing that on other people and the artist isn't gaining financially from it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard though, because I feel like everyone has different temperaments, and you know, there's the argument that like, well, their art is different, but the thing is, like in R. Kelly's case, kind of just like the segue, I guess, like it wasn't separate. It wasn't, because in his music he was even talking about it.
It's hard to, and I think it's, you know, it goes back to that your art is who you are kind of mentality. It's hard to which is not the correct mentality to have, but it is hard to separate someone's art from them as a person because it does tell you something about them. You know what I mean? And it does, and who they are as a person informs how you digest that art.
Yeah. And I also think too that it's different depending on this might be a little dicey, but I do think it's different with
Let's get dicey. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's chop it up. I think it's different with artists of color versus white artists because artists of color have few in the canon, right? Like there are few that get to a certain level of, you know, being a household name within pop culture. But for white artists, there's like this whole menu, right? So if you know, it's hard with someone like Harvey Weinstein when he basically, you know, infiltrates the whole, you know, industry.
Like, probably one of, if not the biggest predator of.
Yeah. And like, I'm not saying that like we shouldn't watch Harvey Weinstein movies, but I don't.
That would be difficult.
Everywhere. Like,
how are you supposed to? And that's the other thing is like sometimes it gets, especially with movies when there's so many people involved.
That's right.
How do you? It's hard.
It is hard. And the thing is too is I'm not, and I stand on this firmly. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. I'm not going to tell anyone what to watch. I think that if you're okay with it, then that's your prerogative. But I don't think that anyone should infringe that on anyone else. Like I don't think that if they want to watch like a Harvey Weinstein movie and their friend doesn't want to watch it, that they should like shame them for not wanting to watch it, or that they should like, you know, I don't think in public settings that anyone should be doing that. I don't think in public settings I don't think that's what it's for. I think if you are in your own home, then you can do what you want.
It's a personal experience that it like, people who try to force their opinions on art on other people are like, it almost is like they don't understand what the point of art is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's so individual in how you experience it and how you feel about these things.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not a world of people who all think the same. Obviously. Especially
when someone is literally harmed emotionally or mentally by you infringing those opinions. Like, and I like to be careful of the word opinions because I feel like it can seem really wishy-washy and can really float either way. But like when it comes to like people who cause harm, I think that no one should be promoting their work in public, right? I just don't think that's where it belongs anymore. This is what frustrates me so much about people talking about like trigger warnings and safe spaces. It's like, is it really that difficult for you to make this other human being feel safe? Like, is it that much of a burden on you that they want you to warn them before you talk about sexual assault? Like or they want you to not play that R. Kelly song like that loudly on the train? You know what I mean? Like, is it that hard to make the world around you easier for other people? Yeah, that's real. And I just want to like talk about one more thing, I think, before we like maybe talk about the funny things we saw, just for a lighter topic.
Before we maybe end up a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. This has been pretty heavy.
Yeah. Some murder.
That's fine. Don't listen to this like maybe on your morning commute. Maybe listen to it at the end of the day.
Watch a cartoon after or something.
Yeah.
I think there's an important distinction to be made with knowing another perspective or becoming aware of another perspective and being empathetic or being sympathetic, because you don't have to do both. Like, I don't think that when you look at the perspective of like someone who is, I don't know, within the Manson family, what do we call them? Do we call them followers? What do we call them? What have we decided?
Members? I don't know. Like the Manson family members, I suppose, is like their boy band name, I guess.
Got it. Their boy band. Got it. So within the family, like I don't think it's wrong to say, you know, they were first of all probably on acid all the time. Second, like maybe these women were coming from, I don't know, broken homes, or you know.
Yeah, totally.
That, you know, they didn't see another way out of. And
you don't try to call them you're like you're feeling pretty desperate or like pretty isolated.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with acknowledging those factors, but at the same time, holding people accountable. I think you can do both. I think it's hard. It's a hard space for people to exist in because they assume, or maybe to them, that you can't have perspective without sympathy. I think for some people, they can't differentiate the two. They can't, in their mind, it just creates some cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, when we were saying we love serial killers. It's not like we're big fans, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's fascinating to look at different perspectives of the events that happen, even if one perspective is wrong. Like one is did the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. Someone was murdered. Obviously, there's a right and a wrong in that situation, but that doesn't mean you can't look at the factors that caused the situation with interest and with some degree of empathy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or not even with empathy, but with a knowledge that people don't come out of the womb just like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Desiring to start a cult and murder Sharon Tate. Like that doesn't just happen, Mm-hmm. And I think people are too often, it's really easy for people to write off perspectives of others.
Yeah, especially when it's coming from because what actual mental illness did Charles have? Was he I'm
gonna look it up. I don't know off the top of my head. Ooh.
I believe he was either borderline.
I think he was, well, I'll look it up before I...
Sure.
I want to say borderline, but let's see. Charlie Manson. Why did I look up Charlie Manson?
Charlie
Manson.
Charlie Manson.
UCFF Charlie Manson. No, let's see. I'm trying to find it.
It's gotta be somewhere.
Let's see. Oh, 5 myths about Charles Manson. Maybe that will happen.
Ooh. I love debunking myths.
Myth number 1. It says, in reality, Manson was never diagnosed with any illness.
Okay.
But he refused to submit to a psychiatric evaluation at his trial. So, and I guess psychologists disagreed about whether or not he was faking. But I mean, you kind of have to think of course he was mentally ill, right? I mean, you don't create this narrative of the Beatles sending you messages to start a race war through music and then carry out, orchestrate the murder of a bunch of people unless you got something going on up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm glad you made the distinction of it's about the narrative that he drew in his head. I'm glad because it's not that him being violent means he must have been mentally ill. It's that, he had this different reality.
Yeah. And that's another thing is people often blame violence on someone being mentally ill. And it's important to remember that the majority of mentally ill people don't murder people. They're functioning in society.
Yeah. And they're actually victims more.
It's important to mention that. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. And you know what, too, I think that a lot of people will use that as a cop out. Not, let me rephrase that. I think that a lot of people will assume that something must be different about another human, inherently, in order to make them do awful things. But really, it's just that we're uncomfortable seeing another person and seeing ourselves in them as they do horrible things.
And seeing the struggles that we all go through. It's uncomfortable for people to feel that they can relate to these people.
Exactly.
And it's easy for people to. It's an easy escape for people to avoid looking inward, I think, and looking at.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
That would need to be made in our society and in ourselves so that we don't end up like these people. Yeah, I think that's
totally.
good. Yeah.
Yay, so why don't we talk about some like fun things?
Let's do something fun. Yeah, let's do a what was it? What was the most fun part of this movie to you?
Ooh, okay. I wrote some down.
Okay.
I I wrote down, Margot, can I borrow your legs? Because she just has great.
Margot, like your existence, honestly.
Just like, is she renting them out? Like,
God, she's beautiful. I mean, she is
so beautiful.
like, and you know that 50s. It's she like I feel like can pull off any, like to go from Harley Quinn to Sharon Tate. Like,
I think she's
can pull off any look at that point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she's. Yeah, I guess my biggest positive thing would be Margot Robbie.
Yeah. Yeah.
in this movie.
Mm-hmm. I also, there was like a couple scenes where some people are drinking like Bloody Marys, and then there was one where Brad Pitt's character put a stick of celery in it, and I was like, this is too much. Y'all can like Bloody Marys, but don't do this to me.
What do you mean? That's a thing that people do. That's like a thing.
Yikes! Really?
I mean, but I've never had a Bloody Mary, but I think that's like I think celery is like a thing. Maybe they picked it because it's a really crunchy fruit for him to bite on.
Oh my God, why? I don't understand.
Yeah, love that.
Oh gosh. Every time somebody drank a Bloody Mary, I was like,
a lot of drinking in this movie. Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Stressful, man. Hollywood is stressful.
I think my favorite part of the movie was also when I hesitate to say it because I kind of felt like the movie dragged a little bit. Like there was definitely some stuff that like that really long shot of Brad Pitt driving the car. I was kind of like, does this need to be as long as it is?
Yeah.
Really long. But then that whole long sequence of Leo on the TV show, and then he screws up the line. And then he just like the fact that it was like 10 minutes long was so amusing to me. And then he's like trying to stay in it.
Right. Oh my gosh. That was so funny.
And then, he trashes his trailer, which was funny.
Oh, yeah. I think I also wrote down, Leo plays like the tormented macho guy so well. Like just,
he really does, yeah. That's like his thing. Tormented macho guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be another word besides macho, because I don't want to say like manly, because I feel like that's not real. But like, what is
men? He plays men. He plays a man, a tormented person. Yeah, it's that like toxic masculinity kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Yeah, I need directors to stop making him use racial slurs though. Don't do that to him.
Stop it. Yeah, I don't want that.
Leave him alone.
Anymore. Yeah, I feel like, oh, you know what? I just remembered who the other people of color were in this movie, and it was those Mexican people who took his car at the very beginning. That's right. And he says, don't cry in front of the Mexicans.
Jesus Lord.
Which I sort of was like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say about it?
Yeah.
Does that mean like they're very masculine? I don't know.
Anyways. I also thought it was funny when he was like, when Brad, what's his name? Cliff. When he was like, Brad. When he had taken like that like acid. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was amusing. I mean, the end was amusing. As much as I had problems with it, it was it was a fun way to end the movie.
Yeah, my goodness.
I wish it wasn't all women, but
it was very like from what I hear, that is like the crux of Pulp Fiction, or like kind of the energy of the movie.
Yeah, that's accurate. I think that's an accurate statement. It's that sort of chaotic, violent, just like all over the place. Like when he hits her with the dog food, like it's so absurd that you almost have to be like, what do you?
Yeah.
Like, and when she keeps coming up out of the pool like 4 times, I was like,
I was like, she ain't dead. What?
I was like, geez. All right, they're really trying to sell us that this is like not a real thing that happens.
Right.
Yeah. Fun movie.
So in general, I am buying into like the magical realism genre, I think.
I'm into it. I like the idea. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think here's my overall thoughts on the movie. I liked it. it could have been executed better, I think.
Mhm.
And I think I'm kind of tired of Quentin Tarantino and white men.
Yeah, I think
Those stories constantly.
yeah. People, we have new writers out here making it happen, and I'm excited to like see what they have to offer us, because I think at the end of the day I have to come up with like whether I have to decide whether or not I want to see more art like this, like after a movie or after a show that I watch. Do I want to see more of this?
Yeah, right.
And in terms of the genre, sure, but in terms of like the themes, nah.
Not really. Been there, done that, kind of.
Yeah, truly for the longest.
Like for a long time, and now he's like, oh, let's go back to that. It's kind of like, well, it doesn't really feel like we
maybe not
left that. I mean, I get what you're saying, but
yeah,
in the movie, I guess is pretty much what I would call this.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that I got to watch this movie with you and talk about it. I love thinking hard.
I think this is so fun. It's great to talk with friends about art, and I love getting the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for joining me on Plot Twist Please, the podcast. And you peeps out there, stay weird, stay curious, and don't join a cult.
Good advice.
Bye.
Bye.
Do I stop recording?